Well, hi there, I'm Noah Bradley. This is Handmade House TV. And on this week's episode, I'm going to give you an update on the lake house. So stay tuned. Well, all right. Once again, I thank you for tuning in here to Handmade House TV. Today, I wanted to give you an update on what's happening on the lake house, and it's not a whole lot, more or less continual setbacks. And I think that in sharing with you today, what I'm hoping to point out to you is that whenever you're building a house, there's constant walls, there's constant obstacles that you will face, and some of them feel like they're impenetrable, that there's absolutely nothing you can do about it, and you're tempted to almost throw in the towel, put your hands up, give up, whatever, that I can't possibly get through this. And a lot of these obstacles will happen right at the beginning of building a house, because once you actually begin the process, once you're motivated and you're starting to carry it out and you're starting to cut checks for the process of the house, it's sort of like a snowball rolling down a hill, and that is, it gains its own momentum and eventually fulfills itself. So a lot of these obstacles that we encounter tend to be right in the beginning, so you won't ever really get started on it. And a good example that I'd like to talk about today is the building permit and the construction loan and the progress or lack of progress, therefore, we are making in that. And the building permit was once again sent back to me to add further clarifications on some of the dimensions and engineering bearing weights of some of the joists and the girders in the house. And of course, I've already had a professional architect do the plans, and I've already looked at it from a common sense perspective, and I've already had an engineer the flooring system to be adequate. And I've also gone to 2 different building supply materials who they have their own engineers who look at the material list in order to ensure that the materials they supply are adequate and make it. So all this stuff has been checked out up and down many times over, but still the building inspection department wants more of it in proof, more of it on paperwork, and of course they want that stamp on the plans that shows that it has been looked at by someone in authority, and therefore that person in authority is assuming responsibility for any future issues that might happen decades from now, which won't happen. So anyway, we're now at the building inspections department has had the plans for about 2.5 months. Trying to get a building permit with them. And the worst case scenario I've ever had in getting a building permit took me 6 months, and that was just unheard of. I actually had hired an architect to help me with the plans, and she actually teaches architectural drawing at a college in Northern Virginia. And and she was extremely frustrated and bewildered on why her plans got rejected. I think they came down like 8 times they were rejected for more additional material. And it's just an indication of that there's supposed to be uniformity in every county with regard to the building permit process of getting it. But clearly every one is a unique character, has a unique standard, has different people working for it. And so you've got to expect some I don't know if a resistance is the best way to put it, but nonetheless, time, a little bit more effort in some of them. The vast majority, well over 50% of the building permits I've gotten throughout my lifetime, I've gotten it in the day that I applied for it. I would hand draw my own plans, not an architect, not an engineer, walk into a building inspector's office. There it is. They give me the paperwork to fill out. They'd look at the paperwork, they'd tell me how much I owe for it, I'd write the check, I'd get the building permit that day. But those days still happen, because I'm aware that it does happen, but nonetheless, a lot of counties are more resistant and will give you more of these obstacles. And the reason it takes so long is that always the information they want, you need to get a professional in order to verify it. Each of the steps is not something you as a owner builder, or even if you were a professional licensed contractor, you still need to go to the pros about it. And they're not particularly available and ready to work on it. They have other clients or whatever else. When I started working on the plans with the idea, I had already worked on the plans before COVID. COVID brought the job to a halt. I had applied for a building permit, and that I thought that the plans were good enough. The building inspector said, no, you need to add more stuff to it. That's when I talked to an architect, and then that's when COVID stopped. So it all stopped at that. And then this last November, which was 4 or 5 months ago, I guess, no, probably longer than that. This is May. And so we're talking about back in November, I was ready to start again. And I assumed, since we had already started, that I could call the architect up and that we'd be ready to go on it, and I could have a permit in hand and be ready to start construction January 1st. Well, I called the architect up, and the architect said that he was busy the next couple of weeks, and then he needed to take off a couple of weeks for Christmas, that he had young children at home and really wanted to spend time with them, and it would be sometime mid-January before he could start working on it. So basically, I sat there waiting patiently for him to start working on it, and then there was multiple exchanges on trying to get the plans just right, tailored back and forth. Looking at this, no, let's move this here or there and everything else. So eventually I was ready to start come February in order to apply. And that's when I did it. And we've been through round after round. And the first round, if you recall it, a shrink swell report, well, first of all, I had to find somebody that does that. It's actually a firm that specializes in shrink swell soil studies. And they come out and do a core sample. They drill down in the ground in order to determine, and then they have to send it off to a lab. And so you have to wait for the lab to get around to it and for them to come up with the results. And then the firm analyzes the results, and then they give you the recommendation on what to do with the soil. And then you take this recommendation and then you take it to an engineer. And so I had to find an engineer who was available for it. And then that gets incorporated back into the blueprint, so it goes back to the architect. And then once the architect is finished with it, then you take it to the county. So you can see how the dollars roll on this stuff, and how the time keeps getting sent further, delaying it out further and further. Now, if you're building, if you're a professional contractor and you're building in a subdivision, all this stuff has already been taken care of. If you're working off of mass-produced plans where 150 homes have been built exactly like this one, the process is typically much faster. But when you go in as an owner builder, which is what I'm doing here, because I'm really trying to do it as you guys would do it, so that you're seeing what's going on. I'm not familiar. I don't believe that the building inspectors in this particular county are aware that I'm a builder at all. I went in and presented myself as an owner builder, and I signed all the documents saying that I would be responsible and liable, and I would build it according to code. And so that's how I'm doing it. So that takes care of that. And then with regard to the loan, we still have not gotten a final approval of the loan. Well, we were approved. We've been approved by 2 banks so far, lending institutions, I should say, and both of them gave such unrealistic terms that we passed on it. And so we're currently working on a 3rd bank now, but I've never heard some of the terms that are being presented right now. And I've been told by multiple people that are in the know that there's just issues going on with getting a construction loan right now. There's kind of a credit crunch, thanks to inflation being out of control, to we're worried about what the future of the housing market's like, and Congress is trying to get some budget passed up there, which they think will affect the budget and everything else. And it's just one little mess after the other, to the point where banks just are shutting down their mortgage departments. And so the few remaining are, I guess they're overwhelmed with applications, and they feel they can start start charging weird expenses and stuff like that. So we're still dealing with that issue as well, and we'll talk more about both the permit and the loan when things happen. But I just wanted to do that, and so with all of this, with all of these delays, it's very easy to get frustrated, to get upset with these people that are causing all of these delays, but they're all doing their job of their assignments of trying to ensure that that all the boxes are checked, all the rules are complied with. And so you need to, even though all of these individuals are costing you money and costing you time and potentially making you look bad, you need to stay positive. You need to stay encouraging. You need to be kind to all of these people. And you just need to get through the process, and you need to assume that delays happen and that overages as cost will happen as well. And thanks to you being involved in the project, you're going to save a whole lot of money. All of this would have been forked out to your contractor or your builder, and he would have put a markup on it, and he wouldn't have done any better than what you would have, especially if you're building a unique custom home. So I hope to, in next week's episode, to have a better report, at least the loan or the permit going through, and hope to get moving forward on this. And I've got some really good tips for you there. If you want to know more about how to get a permit, I created a course on it, and it's mainly oriented towards individuals that want to build their own home, that have never built one before, and they want to get a permit, and they're intimidated by the process of getting a permit. And it shouldn't be that way. By right, by law, we're allowed to build a home on our own property, and that you just need to comply. And the main issue with getting a permit is that you need to create a set of plans that meets code. And it used to be you needed to build a house that met code, but they really want you to get the plans so precise that that it passes code, and so that they can look at the plans and did you do the same thing that's in the plans? Well, that clearly meets code. Then we'll make it happen. So my final words to you is consider coming over and signing up for the How to Get a Permit course. It's vital if you're thinking of building your own home. It's also vital if you're thinking about building anything unique like a log cabin or a stone. It's not any magic wand or threatening anybody, but it's a way to be aware, keep the whole perspective of what the other guys are going through in the permit process, and so that you can fit in and it can be as smooth as possible in coming out the other end. Other than that, that's all I got for today. So anyway, you guys take care. Thanks again for following along. I look forward to getting this house built, and look forward to sharing with you exactly how it happens. And so until next week, you guys take care. Bye now.